In this tutorial, we're going to see text. Text in Painter, it's very good for a small amount of text. So if you have like a book or something where you would use a bigger amount of text, I would recommend another software. But if you would like to combine text and image and make text become one with the illustration, this is a really good tool. So we're going to start it and check how this works. To start working with text, we grab the T tool on the toolbar, and I would open through window. We have here the text palette, and I'm going to explain you guys how this text palette works. So to begin with, we can see I have my first layer. I have the image of the beetle that I'm going to add to the illustration afterwards. We had this tutorial earlier before, and I just open an extra layer just for you to see that at the moment I click on my image, and I'm going to do this now, another layer opens, and this is a text layer. So I'll just put a name in here. We can see that I have the text already with a color. The first thing that we could do would be maybe change this color if we would like to. So we have here on the top of our working space, we have here a possibility of changing the color. I'm just grabbing something more bluish, and I'm going to bring some gray color in here so it's not too bright. Well, at the moment I click outside of the text, a new text layer opens, so I'm just clicking back on the beetle text that I had before, and we can see that we have the possibility of a text without any shadow. We can have a text with a shadow outside of the letters, or we can have the text inside of it. So I would like to have the shadow inside of the text. We have as well the possibility of putting the text on the right side. We can center the text or on left side. And we can see as well that a little cross shows us how centered this text is. So it's centered to the left, to the right, or to the center. And to be able to move my text now, I would need to press Command and go to this little cross in the middle of it and move it to the side. Because if I try to go anywhere up here, I won't be able to be moving my text. I really have to press Command, grab this little cross in the middle, and then my text would be free to be moving to any side. The next possibility would be to change the font of my text. We have in Painter as many fonts as you have in your computer. I will just start trying to use a font which is quite bold. We can see here that we can increase and decrease the distance between the letters, and if I would have two lines, I would be able to change the distance between these two lines. Okay, I can make it closer or further away. So this is something that is possible as well. Just erasing this. At the moment I have my text as text layer. I can still decide what to do with, for example, the text attributes or with the shadow attributes. So if I go to text attributes, I can, for example, make it blurry, the text itself. What I really like to do is I like to, instead of do the text blurry, I like to blur a little bit the shadow. And you can see now that my shadow is a little bit blurry. And if I go to the layer tool and I click on the shadow, I can move the shadow inside of my text. But this is only possible if it's still as a text layer. I could, example, change a little bit the opacity from this shadow if it's a little bit too hard. Or I could afterwards change this into a standard layer, and I have these two separate layers. I could, for example, change the color from the shadow by selecting Save Transparency, grabbing a new color, and then painting on top of it. Like here, I just got something a little with a bit of a texture. If I would like to have it fully without texture, I could just go, for example, to another kind of feather I'll just increase the size of it, and I could then change the color from the shadow. Moving ahead, we have a straight line. We can work with curves, and I'm going to show you soon how to make this a little bit better. It looks a little bit odd at the first time. And we have a few different curve types. I like to have to work with the first one. And to change this right now and put a little bit of order, I would have to press Command and just drag it a little bit to the side. And I think the distance between the letters are a bit too large. Like this is a bit better. Afterwards, if I need to move and click and move, I need to go back to the cross, pressing Command. So Command, if you're working with text, is always very useful. If I go to the center line, I can as well be moving this text along the line that I have underneath it. So if I go a little bit to the side, I can center it again. At the moment you're done with this part and you say, well, this looks good, that's how I would like to have it, we can change this layer into a standard layer. Well, at the moment you do this, you have to be sure that you're not going to be changing the text anymore. The text is going to stay the way it is right now, okay? So I'm changing this into standard layer, and now I get a group of layers with the shadow and one just with the text. These are standard layers. So now I could really combine this with my beetle. I'm just closing again my group so that I can move both layers at the same time. Could bring it up here, and I could just say, well, here's my bed. I could just say, well, I could make the text transparent so that it's not really straight on top of it, or I could use the same technique that I've used to paint the beetle to paint the text. So if I grab, for example, preserve transparency, I'm going to select the same tool that I used to paint the beetle, which was pastel square heart, and I can now, selecting the brush square heart, I can click on one of the colors that I've used before, where I have, strange enough, this straight lines, and I can just start painting on my text, grab the same colors that I have around here, maybe grab some yellow, and like this I kind of adapt the text to the illustration and they become one and have exactly the same technique. Okay, talk to you soon in a new tutorial.